Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the second of our MontcoWorks NOW Industry Insight Series. We're thrilled that you're able to join us, and we've been looking forward to continue with this series. Our first session last week is now posted on our MontcoWorks NOW YouTube channel. Our focus was with Andre Hardy with the Career Link, and Akeem and I had an excellent conversation with Andre about the current state of workforce here within Montgomery County and within our region. Again, I'm Kyle Longacre. I'm the Program Administrator for College and Career Readiness at Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, and I head up the MontcoWorks NOW Youth Workforce Program. This MontcoWorks NOW Industry Insight Series is part of our career readiness programming with the Intermediate Unit, and it's a partnership between MontcoWorks, which is the Montgomery County Workforce Board, Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, and is sponsored by the Business Education Partnership Grant, which is a Pennsylvania grant to be able to encourage conversations between businesses and educators. So we want to welcome teachers, counselors, administrators, and students, and possibly their parents, to be able to watch these industry insight sessions and learn through this process. So I'll turn it over to Akeem, allow him to introduce himself, and we'll go from there.
All right, good day, everybody. I'm Hakeem Jones. I am one of our youth career counselors here with the MontcoWorks NOW program. I enjoy working with young people. We do everything from helping them identify careers and educational opportunities to helping them navigate life. I do have a background working with both adults and youth when it comes to workforce and helping people build self-sustainability and helping folks identify ways to improve their circumstances.
And we are happy this week to be welcoming Wib Zook with United States Cold Storage, or U.S. Cold. Wib, I'll turn it over to you to introduce yourself.
Okay, good morning, and thank you for this opportunity. For myself, I basically had two careers. I started my career in the education field and did that for about 18 years. And then I moved over into the logistics and distribution field, of which I've been involved with now for about 35 years. And I've done pretty much everything from driving a truck to moving into management and to my current responsibility, which is doing the compliance for the asset-based trucks and the like for U.S. cold storage across the country.
And Wib and I also share the fact that we both were baseball players on the Goshen College baseball team. Wib would have played just a couple years ahead of me with this.
A few years, probably.
So we're going to be talking about team and culture a little bit later on in this here, but that's a point of pride that I have, Wib, that you and I have that common experience. Hakeem, you have a little bit of athletic experience as well. Is that correct? A little bit.
Correct. So I'm a former Division I football player, walk-on, and like Kyle and Wib, I probably played sports since the age of 8, 9 years old. So yeah. I think a lot of what we're going to talk about today is going to touch on that concept of teamwork and how companies thrive with that team approach.
So I was smart though. I played center field. I was out there. I was safe. I was well away. I think Wib was behind the plate there. He was using the tools of ignorance, we would say, as a catcher. But we always enjoy talking baseball and any other sports. But within this, what we try to do in our youth workforce programming is we highlight high priority occupations. And we also look at then the skills and the education pathways to be able to help our young people to be able to move into the directions of these high priority occupations and help our employers then communicate with the educators so that and the students so that they know how they can be able to onboard and encourage young people to consider these very, very important careers. And in this case, we're talking essential careers. And what I'd like to start off with here, Wib, is we're talking transportation and logistics. And I mentioned our conversation that we had last week with our Career Link. We know that here now in September of 2020, this is a critical high priority area. But what do we mean by this? What exactly is transportation and logistics?
Okay, well, as I put in my outline, there's primarily three general areas in which we speak about when we speak about this, which is called production and logistics, which is basically the manufacturing end of products and that type of thing. And the second is what's called distribution logistics, which is primarily a third party, which we don't own the product. We merely store it, manage it, and get it from point A to point B and that type of thing. And that's pretty much what I've been involved with over the number of years, not manufacturing per se. And then a new one that's kind of coming out, it's been around for a bit, is what's called disposable logistics, which is kind of the recycling of products and this and that type of thing, which is beginning to grow more and more. But anyway, our focus today is primarily going to be on that distribution part, or the warehousing transportation aspect. So what is really logistics about? I kind of summarized it in one kind of a short sentence, and that is that it's the detailed cooperation or coordination, and I highlighted the word detailed. I think regardless of what you do, how you're involved in anything to do with this distribution network, is that you pay attention to detail. All the way from being a truck driver to a dispatcher, to a management, to a VP, to planning or whatever it is, detail is very, very critical. And we emphasize that pretty much with our drivers, because they're the front line out there as to what's happening in terms of reputation, in terms of culture and that type of thing. So it's the detailed coordination of a complex operation involving three primarily things: people, facilities, and products. So think of taking those three together, and how do we get things from point A to point B in an economical and efficient manner? That's pretty much the network of what logistics and distribution, particularly third party, is all about. So that's kind of a short summary of that.
Very good. I appreciate that overview. I'm going to try something here. We're going to try to take a quick look at a video. You work currently for United States Cold Storage.
That's correct.
Could you just give us a quick overview of what is United States Cold Storage while I get this video lined up here?
Well, it's probably, at this point, it's probably the second or third largest cold storage business in the United States. It's a private company, but it's owned by Swire, which is a European company, I'm sorry. And but we do pretty much all of the distribution. I mean, our biggest competitors are primarily Americold and the like, but yeah, we're located in 42 facilities across the country, almost in all states, but primarily in the large areas of the population. I think one of the things that's pretty critical about this particular geographic area, if you look at where we're located in this southern Pennsylvania region, and then if you look all the way from Boston down to Washington, D.C., within 3 to 5 hours, we can probably network and contact a major portion of the population within a short period of time. That's why this area is such a critical area now for distribution.
All right, well, let's take a look at this video here, and I'll remind our participants, there is a Q&A function at the bottom of your Zoom window. At any point in time, you're invited to ask questions of Wib or myself, and we're looking forward to being able to ask those, and looking forward to you help to guide these programs here, so your input is critical. Let me switch over here, and hopefully this works for us.
In 1899, United States Cold Storage was born. We had a different name at the time, but the same purpose: to be the best refrigerated warehouse farmers, fishermen, and families had ever seen. Striving to move the industry forward with innovation and technology, keeping Earth healthy, giving our customers a way to move and store goods that became a symphony of safe shipping and on-time arrivals. From farm to refrigeration to families. And it's still that way today. Mostly because we've had over a century's worth of the smartest, most talented people you'll find, protecting the goods of the farmers, fishermen, and food makers, preserving the love of families all around. And how rewarding is that? Here's to the next 120 years, where we will continue to find the very best people and keep training ourselves so we get better every day. We will grow our network of high-quality facilities in a responsible manner that maintains our standards and customers' expectations. We will keep advancing our logistics capabilities in an ever-changing environment where the fundamentals still apply. We will deploy proven technologies that give our customers a new window into the visibility of their goods during transit. We will provide pioneering solutions that match our customers' evolving needs and keep their brands protected to give them an edge. And we will continue our mission that began in 1899 to be the best in cold.
We look forward to working safely with you at U.S. Cold for years to come.
All right. And I got to make sure the next video does not start. Okay. So real good overview. I'll turn it over to Akeem for the next question. You're muted, Hakeem. Sorry.
You mind taking that one on while I get myself?
Sure, that's fine. So the Wib, how did you mentioned earlier that you've been in this industry for quite some time. How did you get into the transportation logistics area?
Well, that's rather interesting. I worked my way through college and also during the summers of teaching, I got involved in driving a truck. Okay, and growing up on a farm in central Pennsylvania, we also had trucks. So somewhere I kind of created and developed that passion for trucks and that type of thing, which goes on today. So I started driving truck, and I started driving truck part-time for Rosenberger Cold Storage and Ice back then. And as it evolved and evolved and evolved, then I slowly started getting more involved into that particular industry. And so it all started basically from a part-time job of driving truck. And then as I kind of learned how to do that and kind of came back and made some recommendations how to do some things different, the opportunities, which I think is critical, then began to materialize that I could move into some other positions and the like. So it pretty much all started with a part-time truck driving job.
No, that's great to hear. And again, you mentioned a couple of companies that have been in our area. What is the local footprint for United States Cold Storage and in our region?
Okay, well, the corporate offices are located in Camden, New Jersey. Probably one of our biggest distribution networks or biggest distribution warehouses is actually located in Quakertown. It's, I forget if it's off of Keller Road or something like that. We have two locations in Quakertown called Quakertown East, Quakertown West. We have one big location in Bethlehem, and then one in Hazleton, Pennsylvania. So that's kind of the northeast region of our distribution network. Our other biggest network is out obviously in the Chicago area and called Wilmington, Illinois, right south of Chicago and the like. But then we have major distribution centers down in Atlanta, Georgia, Fort Worth, Texas, and out in Sacramento Valley area of California. Those are probably the biggest network distributions, although we have smaller outlying facilities, but those are where the major transportation and what I call the third party, those are where those take place.
When we look at the footprint here, that we kind of want to approach at 30,000 feet, 20,000 feet. You mentioned that our region is a hub for the entire Northeast corridor here.
That's correct.
You mentioned the local, Montgomery County, Bucks County, Lehigh County. We're seeing all these warehouses going in. Take it down to the trucker level right now. I mean, where are these trucks coming from? And again, I'm a middle school student, driving with my parents up and down the Northeast extension of the Turnpike right through Montgomery County. And I'm seeing trucks going here, there, everywhere. I get up on 78 and I see even more trucks going here, there, everywhere. Where are they all coming from? Where are they all going? What's happening here?
Well, obviously this region is a big hub and a big network because of so many people that we can reach within a short period of time. So when you see a truck going somewhere, okay, you can generally assume that it's coming from some food manufacturer, either locally here which is obviously the Clemens Food Group, the JBSs and that type of thing, which are two of the biggest food producers in this general area. But you also then have to think that, okay, where's the rest of that food and where's the rest of that product coming from? And it's generally coming from the big food manufacturers. For example, we have perhaps some of the biggest ice cream customers from across the country. So when you go to the grocery store and you look at much of the product that's on the shelves, particularly in the frozen and the refrigerated area, not so much in the dry area, but the frozen and refrigerated area, that when you pick up that particular container of whatever it is, you can generally assume that it came through some network here in the Northeast to get to that grocery store. So they're either bringing that product into a storage location, which then manages all that inventory and the like, and then takes the orders and processes them and moves them either via their own trucks or through another truck outbound to wherever the consumer base is. That's where you see all these trucks moving back and forth. And you probably have to understand a little bit about some of the logistics end of it as to where are they coming from and where are they going. But what are the opportunities for young people getting into that type of an industry are pretty enormous at this point, because it leads them, as I always say, develop connections, develop a network. And this provides a network, because you would be amazed at how many times they can converse out there on the road, how many times they can converse with people at the pickup location or at the distribution location or the consumer end. And it's amazing at what they can network there. That's probably what helped my career the most, was that networking. So that's a key word that I think we need to put out there to people. How do I network, and how do I maintain that network?
Yes, and if I could add, Wib, many of us, we get out of college or we get out of high school and we don't necessarily know what we're going to do or what path we're going to take. I've had personal experience working for a manufacturer in the furniture arena, and you're exactly right. From the time you leave that warehouse to the different points throughout the region that you go to, we've been to colleges, we've been to universities, we've been to hospitals, we've been to corporate centers. And as a young person at that time, you're 100% right. One, you were able to network with the people in these different locations. You were able to learn what's out there in your region. But most importantly, your mind was expanded just through how much work is available in the logistics side of industry.
I think one of the things that I would like to encourage, and would encourage you folks that are involved with young people, is don't be afraid to get involved in the ground level of something. And if you're encouraging people to look at the truck driving as a career, that's a good starting point, because it's amazing to me how becoming a truck driver and doing some of those basic groundwork things allows you to see what else is available out there. And then you may go and pursue your education towards something more of that regard and that type of thing. So to me, it's critical to get into the ground floor and learn from that point going forward, because that's the best education opportunity. Yes, books and all theories and the like are very good, but it's pretty much, to me, in the logistics end of it, that ground root involvement is very critical. And starting as a truck driver, I have a lot of pride in that. Even though I have a college degree, I have a lot of pride in the fact that I can drive a truck down the road. And by the way, I still do have my CDL license.
That is something I've never got. You and I share growing up on a farm as well, so I would be driving the tractors, but I never was driving the big rigs, and I'm always envious of that. So we talk about certificates, and the CDL is the commercial driver's license. There's different levels of it that are available, and that's one thing that in our youth workforce program, we have quite a few of our clients that are seeking to get that. CDLs are available through a variety of different providers, including at North Monco Career and Technical Center here within Montgomery County. And it's something that the Career Link can be a partner to help line up both youth and adults to get that commercial driver's license.
I think one of the things that I kind of read in the outline a little bit earlier is, what are some of the sequences perhaps that a person can go through as they get involved in this particular career or profession? The first thing I would say is have a passion for what you're doing. Okay, make sure that you have a passion for what you're doing. It doesn't matter if you change that from time to time, but whatever it is, keep that passion for what you're doing, because that makes a critical difference. To me, if you get in on the ground routes, for myself, for example, I was a truck driver. That then moved into allowing me to dispatch and to communicate with drivers. From that, then I went into management, where I started to decide, how do we make this all work? Then I moved into purchasing, actually buying trucks, selling trucks, and setting up rates and that type of thing, all the way up to becoming a vice president and now currently in compliance. So you can see the steps are there if you come in on the ground route and you allow yourself to grow with those opportunities. I always say that when an opportunity presents itself, don't turn it down. Okay, move into that opportunity, and it'll be amazing how this particular field of logistics and distribution allows to open up a large opportunity for things, all the way from finances to analyzing to communication and that type of thing, which I think are pretty critical to the success of any career that you do, but particularly this operation.
And Wib, one thing I've noticed with our young people, they like and they prefer structure. What I've learned about warehousing and logistics, the hours and the shifts are very straightforward. They're very flexible. You know, they're either first shift, second shift, third shift. So kids aren't working all over the clock. So they have the ability to enjoy life and work a full-time job. And then also their wages are very competitive, and it gives a lot of these young people the opportunity to, you know, find overtime and even become, you know, flexible throughout the company.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing how I think companies in general, and particularly in the distribution network, is we have to provide that flexibility. Otherwise, it would be hard to staff someone. I mean, you have to understand, if you're working in the warehouse, you know, that's minus 20 degrees inside that particular ice box, and that's not the most inviting environment to work in, for example, and that type of thing. And even with the truck drivers who are working with frozen foods, when they open those doors to the trailers and that type of thing. But that, to me, that far out, the opportunities far outweigh those particular hazards at that point.
It's interesting that within the logistics area, we talk oftentimes, and this is kind of my social studies background, and whether it be a geography class or whether it be an economics type of class, we talk about the basic needs and secondary needs: food, water, shelter. We've gone through now 6 months plus now of COVID-19 mitigation steps, where the country, the world, has been shifting gears, and the economy is shifting right in the midst of us here. But our big cities, our areas, every individual still needs food, water, shelter. They still need the raw materials here. How has this industry changed, adjusted during COVID-19? What does that really look like for U.S. Cold and for similar companies?
Yeah, interesting. One of the things, though, that was a positive to our industry was we were considered essential. Okay, I mean, truck drivers and getting things to the marketplace were considered essential. So that gave us a bit of a plus, in my opinion. However, we did have to alter some significant things within our own operation. For example, truck drivers, when they went to make their deliveries, could not go into the facilities. Instead, we had to put a process in place that all the paperwork was put in the back of the trailer. They opened the doors and they backed up, and then they did nothing other than wait in the truck until everything was done, which was really kind of different, because truck drivers are, quote, held accountable for what the product is in that particular trailer. But that was one of the rules and regulations that was put into place. And so we had to adjust to that. The second thing that we had to adjust to quite significantly is whenever there was protests and the like going on in some of the major cities that affected our ability to go into some of the distribution and or warehousing networks, is we had to alter either our times or our routes in the type to do that, which obviously put a significant impact on our dispatchers and our operations managers. So those were probably the two biggest changes that we had to make. And quite frankly, we continue that today. We still do not go inside facilities. We have to wait outside. Now, to be honest with you, as a truck driver, that's an adjustment, because they like to talk to people. Okay, they like to be able to go in and communicate with people. And when you're just in that cab of that truck all the time, that was an adjustment to make. So, but those are the two biggest changes that we felt that we had to make changes with this pandemic going on.
I see we have,
Wib,
go ahead, Hakeem.
I had a question. Wib, are your employees, have you had any situations where personally employees were vulnerable and not able to report to work? Did you see a shortage in your work staff?
Yes, that has occurred on a few occasions with some of our warehouse staff. With our drivers across the country, we had 2 drivers that we had tested because they weren't sure. Both of them came back negative, but just to be safe, we quarantined them for 14 days and didn't allow them to go out on the road. But you know, they were exposed obviously to those possibilities out there. But I think some of the things that we had in place and some of the things that many companies have in place that that really minimized that exposure. But we were exposed to that, that's correct. And we did experience some people calling in because they weren't sure or they didn't feel comfortable, but we're pretty much back to a normal routine right now. We are not, however, in the corporate office. We still only allow 30% to be in the office at one time.
We probably want to have some of our math students and teachers really understand transportation and logistics. Wib, how does math come into your calculations? You're in safety, you're looking, and I'm thinking time, hours, and oftentimes some of these math problems that you read of basic algebra of x plus y plus z is abstract.
Mm-hmm.
I'm guessing in transportation logistics, the variables of x, y, and z equals are real variables for you as in your calculations for safety and otherwise.
Well, if there are individuals that enjoy math and enjoy working with numbers and that type of thing, a big aspect of what we do within the logistics and distribution network is we do a lot of analysis. What are the costs? I mean, you hear from customers over and over, and even consumers, is how can you get the product from point A to point B the most cost-effective way? And obviously they play that against us, they play that against Americold or any other third-party distribution. Well, they can do it cheaper, or they can do this or that. So one of the critical things that we have done, and I think most of the third-party distribution networks have done, if you enjoy that, is there is a wide open field to be able to go in and do analysis work. For example, when you pick something up for here and to get it to there, what all goes into that to make it come out to, let's say, for example, it costs $1.50 a pound or whatever that may be. So that is critical. Establishing rates that are consistent and that are both profitable for a company, both economical for the consumer or the customer that we're doing business with are very critical. So they look to us to be able to provide them with much of that information. And then you go and you track that and you provide history and you provide that backup data and that type of thing. So there's a wide open field for mathematics and analysis work to be done in this type of environment and business.
We have,
Hakeem, do you want to look at the Q&A and ask if there are any questions are there?
Sure. So Wib, if you're a young person, you know, you're about to graduate high school, or maybe you just graduated high school, you've been out of work, maybe you've been working for a year. How might a young person get into the industry of logistics and warehousing, or even how would an adult get into the industry?
Well, most of all of the, in my opinion, most of all the distribution and or even food manufacturing companies are always looking for employees. One of the things that generally we sense a little bit from people that are coming with college degrees or whatever is they think they can move into an upper management position immediately or whatever. We have found that those that are most successful and basically benefit the quote culture of a company is that they come in at the grassroots and work their way up. So I would say that if my son or daughter or a grandchild or whatever graduated from school and was high school and was not sure exactly what they wanted to do, look at some type of a general job in distribution and network warehousing and go in on the grassroots. I think there's another video at US Cold that talks about opportunities that presented themselves. and that type of thing. If you have opportunity to go in and look at that, you would be amazed at people that are saying, I got in at this, I started the company doing this as either sweeping floor or whatever, and kept moving up and moving up and moving up to where they are now, warehouse managers and that type of thing. I would encourage people not to feel that that's insignificant, but I think that's a way of, as I said before, of networking. And how you can get in and network really will help you determine where you can go with your career.
We have a couple questions coming in. I encourage our participants to continue to ask those questions as part of the Q&A, and we'll be working to address those. Just remind all of our attendees and participants in this that this is Industry Insights is funded by the Business Education Partnership Grant with MontcoWorks NOW and the MontcoWorks Workforce Board of Montgomery County. And again, we're continuing to focus on high priority occupations here within Montgomery County and our broader region. One of the questions that we have from our audience, and we're going to come back, you've touched on a couple times, is culture, but I want to just ask one of the questions first is, who are some of your biggest customers? So what would be some of the main companies? You might have mentioned a few, but, and I know last night we talked about one of the main products that you have in storage there that makes me very happy. So who's your customers, Wib?
Well, we obviously have Breyer's ice cream.
Yes.
Turkey Hill ice cream. You look at most of the ice cream companies across the country, and we have their product in storage. Chobani is a big customer of ours. Pretty much all of the big food manufacturers out there are customers of ours, as well as a lot of our locals, particularly here in this region. Clemens Food Group, for example, is a big customer, as well as JBS and that type of thing. So if you look across the country, and as I say, you go into the grocery store and you see those products in there, particularly in the frozen and refrigerated food areas, we've handled their product and that type of thing. One of the things that I think that I'd like to emphasize here when we were talking about people getting into the industry and that type of thing is, and we're talking about culture as well, is anytime that you're an employee, regardless of whether you're a truck driver or where you're at in that particular career development, is what value are you bringing to your customer? Ask yourself that. What value am I bringing? As a truck driver, it's very, very important for the value that they bring because of either the way they present themselves, the way they handle themselves out there on the road and that type of thing. And the other is what value are you bringing to the company that you're working for? So I think as career development people, emphasize those things as young people get into the work environment. What value are you bringing to your customer, and what value are you bringing to your company? Those are critical aspects that we look for, particularly in the distribution network.
We talk about that on the youth workforce side of things as well, and we're trying to, I think it's critical for young people to be able to see that pathway and always be asking that question that you're describing, of what contributions, and oftentimes it can be some of the technical skills. One of the questions that we have from our attendee here is how do you do the calculations? Let me twist that question just a little bit on the safety side of things. The drivers that are moving product across the state, across the region here, are they going all day, all night here, or what's the safety considerations, and how does that calculation come into your play when it comes to safety?
Yeah, we have both segments. We have truck drivers that are gone for a day or two, 3 days at a time, and we have truck drivers that basically leave in the morning or sometime during the beginning of the day and come home in the late afternoon or early evening. So we call those pretty much kind of shuttle drivers or daytime drivers and that type of thing. How we manage that is obviously with the Federal Motor Carrier Association. We have to track what they're doing in terms of hours. The maximum they're allowed to drive is 11 hours during the day. Well, how do you monitor all that? How do you keep that in terms of safety perspective? So we have obviously a lot of electronic data on our trucks that monitor that. For example, we have what's called ELDs, which are the electronic monitoring things for their logs. We have cameras that are able to video and see what's happening out there. We have them all networked into a cell phone network or whatever that we can pretty much track and see where they're at. All of our trailers are monitored by a thing that's called OrbCom, which can show exactly what their location is, where they're moving down the road, at what speed, and all that type of thing. Now that's kind of a looking over the shoulder aspect, but in reality, it provides really some good safety network in the event that something happens, as we have that to show that we are, quote, in compliance. So, and part of my responsibility is that every day I go in and I check their hours of service. I check to see whether there's any violations that came up. For example, did they take their 30-minute rest break or not? And if it is a violation, I'm obviously in touch with them and that type of thing. And we write up a report on that. So we monitor that very, very closely and make sure that we don't dispatch them so that they have to, quote, run over their hours and that type of thing. So from a standpoint of what is the impact to us financially, obviously, if you have an accident or something, that's going to be a very severe financial impact. So we want to minimize that. And we've been fortunate, knocking on wood, that we've been able to pretty much keep that under wraps and keep control of that. So from that standpoint, everything is monitored pretty much electronically, which is another interesting part that people can get into. If you like IT, there's a variety of ways you can get involved into electronic aspects in the distribution network.
Great, thank you so much. I had a question for you, Wib. So you guys are a large company, a lot of employees. Could you share with us the culture of the company and how you guys work to keep things positive and keep things supportive?
Yeah, well, I would say that, you know, I was in the office yesterday and I was speaking to one of the vice presidents, and I said something to the fact that here we are in this large office network and there's not many people here. Do we need this big office space? And the one thing that he came back and he said, well, he said, that's interesting. We can work from home. We can do that. But there's something that we're losing. And he said, we're losing the culture of our camaraderie and our family environment and that type of thing. I think one of the things that I'm most proud of with U.S. Cold, and formerly of Atlas and Rosenberger Cold Storage, is that we created that kind of that culture, is that you are what's making it happen. Not the name of U.S. Cold, not the name of Rosenberger Cold Storage. You as an individual are making that happen. And maintaining and kind of getting involved in that culture, that's significant. So yeah, the culture is we like to be together. Okay, we like to say, you have made the difference and that type of thing. So that's pretty much what they're building on. And if you watch one of the other videos, I think you would see that come out in that. So kind of that all-inclusive environment culture is significant. And I think face-to-face is one of the best things. One of the things that they've asked me to do over a period of time is to go out and do some training at the sites. And it's really, really amazing when you get out there and you sit down one-on-one, or you have 3 or 4 people and you start conversing about why you do this and how that's important. And you see their face light up that they can help make a difference in that. Pretty significant.
Thank you.
Let's look at an additional question of what would a day in the life look like for a recent high school graduate who just got hired, you know, the trucking side or in the warehouse side.
Okay.
You know, what would that look like?
Okay, well, if you were going to go into the warehouse side, you'd obviously go through a network of training and getting used to the facility and this and that type of thing. You would probably start out by getting training to operate either a forklift or a pallet truck if you were going to work in the warehouse. And what you would do then is, if your shift started, for example, at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, and you would come in, you would go and report into your supervisor, and you would get a listing of things that you were to do. For example, maybe there's a truck that came in with ice cream. Your job was to unload that and stage it and take the inventory. Okay, and then you would bring that inventory paper back in to the office, which they would then enter it in and would tell you exactly where to put that in the warehouse. So then you would go and take those pallets and take them into the freezer and put them into the storage racks. Or you might get the assignment that you need to go in and pick some product to get ready to ship it out. Because remember, we take and pull a lot of that product and consolidate it together to make it into a truckload to go somewhere. We could maybe have Chobani product, we could have ice cream, we could have cheesecakes or whatever they may be, and we consolidate and pool all those together. So your job may be go into the warehouse at XYZ location and pick 50 cases of this, 30 cases of this, and stack it all up on a pallet and bring it out and get ready to load it onto the truck. That's generally kind of what you would expect when you first start working in the warehouse. As a truck driver, well, obviously you would go through all the safety training, all the prepping of this and that type of thing. You would get used to where the locations are, and then you would be with somebody that would ride with you for a day just so that you become familiar with what to do. And then your job would be, here's where you go. You're going from here to New York City to deliver to Nassau, Suffolk, or wherever that may be. And that's your assignment. And then you come back, and or you might have a pickup on the way back. But that's all laid out in paperwork and or electronically out into your what's called your ELD or your electronic data thing.
Wib, there's another question from the group. Are there any job shadowing or internship experiences available for high school students? And was there any pre-COVID or will there be any after COVID?
There are. I'm talking now a bit more on the managerial side. We provide a lot of internship opportunities for people to come in and work, particularly in the distribution network and in the analysis work and that type of thing. In terms of internships out into the warehouse and things like that, we provide summer opportunities for high school kids or college kids to come in and do, particularly picking a product or repacking and those type of things. They're not necessarily internships, but there are summer jobs that we provide. But generally, for anybody that has a college education or that is in college and wants to explore certain fields, yes, there is an internship program at corporate for those people to become involved with. And right now, I think we have about 5 or 6 people from Rutgers, Penn State, Temple. There might be 1 or 2 others that are in doing some of our analysis and internship work.
I want to make a comment on that again for students and for counselors and teachers with MontcoWorks Now and our college and career readiness efforts across Pennsylvania. We're doing everything we can to try to provide as many job shadowing, internship, mentoring, work-based learning opportunities for middle and high school students. And so when we say there's a high priority occupation, like logistics and transportation, then we want to be able to see what is the points of entry, where's the tours, where's the learning, that work-based learning that can take place. So an excellent question from one of our attendees, and Wib, thank you for those examples for both early and for college students as well. I'm going to take a second here. We're going to show one additional video. This is Larry Aldifer, who I believe is the new CEO of US Cold.
That's correct.
And they talk about the electric vehicles here. So let me share a screen here and show this real quick. It's just a short 30-second video, and I want to talk a little bit about the energy consumption of this industry. And then one of the questions that we have as well is the manufacturing jobs. So we're seeing all of this new technology going into these large warehouses that goes along with it. So let's look at the video first here.
The way yards operate, it's going to change. We've got our first warehouse that's using electric EV spotting truck. It's fantastic. It goes for 2 days on one charge, just like an electric spotting truck. And the experience we're having in our Turlock, California facility is that vehicles can be used for 2 days without a charge. And it's moving a lot of trailers. So we are looking at how we replace every spotting truck in all our yards to be electric.
So what does that look like, Wib? I mean, huge energy consumption for these plants, and then a lot of jobs that go related to that.
Well, obviously they started it at the correct location. That was out in California, which is obviously very concerned about the climate control and this and that type of thing. And it's really turned out to be rather successful and the like. And while we have at all of our locations 1 to 2 what's called spotting trucks that move trailers in and out, when you take that over 40 some facilities, you're looking at 40 to 50 of those trucks. And so that's a lot of pollution that goes into the air. So I compliment Larry for pursuing that and looking at doing that. I think one of the other things that you saw in one of the videos is you do see these panels, the panels.
The large control panels or the
Yeah, those large
Yep.
control panels and that type of thing. So we're probably looking at that more and more, because when you think of it, we use a lot of energy to keep things at -20 and -30 degrees inside of a particular warehouse. So yeah, we do use a lot of energy and consume a lot of energy and that type of thing. But moving into the electronic and battery operated trucks is a big aspect. I think you asked me earlier about what's the possibility of that on trucks out on the road. I don't think you will see that in kind of the local regional areas, because it would not be feasible to do that. But I think eventually you will see them going, for example, from Philadelphia perhaps to Chicago, or Philadelphia to Georgia, or wherever that may be, where they're pretty much on interstates. I think you'll start seeing that coming down. I don't know, maybe not in the too distant future.
That was a question that was asked last week, and it's the driverless or the vehicles, but the local routes you're saying would still be heavy human operated, but we might see, and this is a key theme within career readiness, is where will automation complement jobs, where will it potentially replace some jobs in the future, and we are seeing more with the automated vehicles.
And Wib, I had another question for you. What's the demographics looking like within the company? I know many folks are retiring, and then there's also many youth who are entering the workforce. What's the future outlook look like when it comes to your average employee?
That is a good question. I would say that we're beginning to see more and more that people in somewhere in their mid-30s to mid-40s or whatever are taking more of the leadership roles in companies. As the older folks like myself begin to move out of that particular area, or the very fact that they're bringing something to the company that perhaps I don't have, or that others don't have. And so those opportunities are for there. In terms of the warehousing and that type of thing, I think it's pretty well mixed. You see young people coming in, you see people that have been in the warehouse for 30 or some years and that type of thing. But I think you're going to see the need for a good solid base of people in their early 20s to their mid 30s and 40s is going to be the thing that makes up the good network of employees for a company, regardless of what position it may be in.
Thank you. And your locations, you're pretty spread out. Are you accessible for folks who might not drive? Are you accessible to public transportation in some of the larger routes?
Yeah, we are accessible to, particularly in our Chicago area, to public transportation and the like. Not so much in the Quakertown area, because it's still more considered a rural area. Bethlehem, I think maybe somewhat or whatever, but probably out in California, we probably are more accessible to public transportation and that type of thing. But to be honest, we still rely on people being able to get to work on their own vehicles and that type of thing.
So it's extremely important for our young people to make that a priority, to get those driver's license and really work on that. Because many good paying, stable jobs, may require you to drive a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's critical, that they get that basic documentation, and it provides more opportunities for them than if they have to rely on public transportation. Now, if we had a big warehouse down in Philly, that might be a different thing or whatever, but most of the warehousing and distribution networks that you're going to see are going to be along major interstate corridors. For example, if you look at our area, Interstate 78 up and Route 30 going up toward Strasburg, huge areas for warehouses that are going up. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah. Great.
This area of one of the other questions we had from one of the attendees was related to other manufacturing jobs, and I think about just how many air conditioner or freezer systems, and we think about within Montgomery County, we have our career and technical centers, we have the HVAC programs, heating, ventilation, air conditioning, and we know that is another major high priority area to be able to service, install, maintain these large chillers and coolers, both in the plants themselves and on the trucks themselves as well. We think of our diesel programs that are at North Montco, and just the mechanics that are needed to be able to keep these trucks moving. We talked about the electronics as well. We also see these state-of-the-art conveyor systems that are in place, moving product around the warehouses. And we know that quite a few of the manufacturers here within Montgomery County build, design, service those types of conveying systems within the warehouses. Is there other areas that I should include in this, Wib?
No, I think you pretty much hit it. And I think that emphasizes one of the critical things, that there's always a need for that type of a person or that type of opportunities within this network. You don't necessarily have to have a college degree and be in management and this and that type of thing. Those opportunities are not going to be replaced by robots. And we need those type of people to keep our total distribution network operating. Very critical and very key to opportunities for growth for any individual that wants to get into those fields.
We're going to wind down here pretty shortly, and we have any more questions that are coming in, we welcome them. I'll also be including a survey in the chat here in just a little bit. Let me share screen one more time, because I never miss an opportunity to use Google Earth as a former social studies teacher here, and Akeem and my team knows this very well. But we're looking at this region of southeastern Pennsylvania, north of Philadelphia, as you mentioned earlier, just within a 3, 5, 7-hour drive of Boston, New York, Washington, Richmond, and the 90, 100 million people that live within this northeast corridor alone just continue to need the logistics. And then you mentioned this area of Montgomery County, and again for our students, U.S. Coal, you mentioned, is down in Camden, but we're seeing all of this warehousing going on in the lower Philadelphia area, and then also in this area up here of Allentown, Fogelsville area, and the 33 corridor. So each of these each of these warehouses, then all the hundreds, if not thousands, of tractor trailers that are moving product in and out of these different warehouses. Some of this is food, some of this is the retail types of products and parts and all types of things that are there as well. But we have to understand this area of Pennsylvania, southeastern Pennsylvania, including Montgomery County, is really absolutely critical in this logistics area. And there are a lot of jobs available. And so we really need to support our employers in this area with this as well. Let's look at final thoughts here. Hakeem, any final questions that you have from your end?
No, but just more so comment, transportation logistics is definitely an outstanding opportunity, not just for young people, but for anybody. And I'll just remind us all that, the large companies, they employ well, they pay reasonably, and most of the companies provide great benefits and flexibility. And there are a lot of young people who like working with their hands. They like the physicality of a job. So, I know as a career counselor, I'm always going to promote and try to get our young folks involved with the CDL process and maybe how they can find careers in logistics.
And we have final thoughts.
Yeah, if I could perhaps summarize just in a couple words what I think is critical for young people to look at as they start developing their career. And the first would be is have a passion for what you're going to do. Okay. And don't be afraid to explore with what that passion may be. It may take a year, may take several years to develop. It took me about 30 years to really get into the passion of compliance. Compliance can be pretty boring because it's just crazy stuff or what, but the thing of it is it provides opportunities. So passion. The second thing is really learn how to communicate well with people and develop relationships during those communications. That's really, really critical. Then the third brings out, how can I best network? Because in those communications, you set up a network, and you'd be amazed at how a good positive network can help you move your career along. And then finally, develop your culture. Buy into the culture of who you're working with and what you're doing, and really help that culture to grow, because that's what's going to sustain growth. That's what's going to keep those relationships going on with your customers and that type of thing. So if you can kind of emphasize those 4 things as you're encouraging people to move in whatever career it is, I think those are pretty critical things for them as a foundation for building their network. Okay.
All right. Well, Wib and Akeem, we really appreciate this opportunity to chat up transportation logistics. we concluded our call last week, reflecting on that COVID has been an incredibly challenging time for individuals, for families, for communities, and for businesses, certainly. But the critical link in continuing to keep product moving, to keep food moving, is the transportation logistics across our region, across the country. And we're really so appreciative of this. The keeping drivers, keeping our roads safe through compliance and through the regulations and the guidance that you are maintaining for your people within your company. Again, Wib, just such important work. We encourage young people to consider the various pathways to be able to move into this critical area that we know is going to continue to grow. And Montgomery County and MontcoWorks want to be leaders in this area. That's one of the areas that where Montco is strong. And we really are happy to support the businesses within this region that are in this transportation and logistics area. So I'll remind our viewers here, I've added a survey to our chat. You can fill that out. All of these Industry Insights recordings will be available on our new MontcoWorks Now YouTube channel. Last week's session with Andre Hardy is available, and we'll post this one here later in this week. We encourage you to view this with your students, and to also we'll attach the survey for that as well. Again, this is funded through the Pennsylvania Business Education Partnership Grant with MontcoWorks and the MontcoWorks Now program. So thank you, Hakeem. Thank you, Wib. And we appreciate the participation, and we wish everybody to have a good day.
Okay, go make it happen, folks.
Sounds good. Thank you.